All right, going position by position here, NFL draft rankings. We're using the consensus board and just kind of talking through. We'll unveil some of our rankings as we get closer to the draft, but this is more of a market analysis, what the people are saying, what the analysts are saying. So the running back position, we have Ashton Jeanty at number 8 overall, the top running back by far, the only one in the top 32. We got UNC's Omarion Hampton at 34, Ohio State's TreVeyon Henderson at 45. Iowa's Caleb Johnson at 62, and then Ohio State's Quinshon Judkins at 65. Hampton is the one guy at 34, getting more and more first-round hype. We're seeing him sneak into more first-round mocks, whether it's the Chargers, other teams in the 20s, whereas clearly we know that Ashton Jeanty is the top guy at number 8 on the consensus, and I still believe someone in the top 10. Could be the Bears now, the way they're building the offensive line. Somebody's going to take Jeanty in that top 10.
Not just more and more first round buzz for Hampton, but you're starting to see the RB1 takes out there, the way it was when and these, I mean, with hindsight or retrospectively, like looking back now, Jahmyr Gibbs versus Bijan Robinson, right? Robinson was the clear RB1 that year. Every now and again, you would find one guy going, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the best running back in this class. And like at the time, it's like, that's crazy. Now, I mean, they both look pretty good, but at the very minimum, you couldn't say definitively Bijan's been the better NFL player than Gibbs. So I'm a little bit leery of being like, anyone putting Hampton above Jeanty is nuts based off, what we know so far. But like, Jeanty's a special prospect. I understand you're dealing like his only criticism, or not even criticism, the only thing you could pick apart his prospect profile with is Boise State, right? He did it at Boise State. He didn't do it in the SEC. So, whatever his numbers are, whatever his production, performance, et cetera is, we need to take that down by a percentage. Now, how much the percentage is up for debate, but there's a lot of percentage to be able to take it down before you put somebody else ahead of Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. He's a friend of the show as well, and I have his signed Sharpie. So Ashton Jeanty is going to remain RB1 for Check the Mic for the foreseeable future. Give me a pen. I mean, it's like I was there. It's like being there at the game. I wasn't there to see Ashton Jeanty in person, but might as well have been. Yeah, I think he's a special player. I think he can catch the ball out of the backfield as well. I think he can run any scheme. I thought the games against better competition, like 20 missed tackles or whatever against Penn State when he had no running room, I feel like that's more of a positive than a negative. We know that running backs have trouble creating production on their own. We know that that's true. And so maybe the yards per carry weren't necessarily there, but they spent their entire game plan, Penn State, trying to, bottle up Ashton Jeanty. So I thought he was pretty impressive in those games. And I like him as an RB1. I think he has a Bijan level of prospect. You're right, though. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs has been as good as Bijan Robinson, if not better. So with all these rankings, right, nothing's ever set in stone. I was given all those caveats for the quarterback position. That applies almost anywhere, right? We don't know absolutely everything. I think Bijan's been fantastic, by the way, too. Gibbs has just brought that special level of burst, big playability, and he's also in a better situation in Detroit. Bijan's in a good situation in Atlanta, but certainly not as good as what Jahmyr Gibbs has been, and as more of a role player than Bijan has been. So just to go back to that.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I mean, overarching themes for this running back group. Number one, it's a really good class. Like, not just these guys in the top 5, but you can keep going and get to some really good players inside the top 100. This is like a really, really strong running back group. Jeanty, like, number one, I think you're right. Special talent. I can't think of too many players that have made what they do look as easy as Jeanty does. Like, there's an effortlessness to his game that's insane. Like, it doesn't look like he's trying, and yet he still makes people bounce off him. Once the guy bounces off him, it's just a slight move to the right to space, and away he goes. And the acceleration is easy. He makes everything look so easy, and it's not. Like, what he's doing is difficult and looks like it should be taking significantly more effort to achieve than he does. He's another guy that I don't really care what he tests like. I don't really care what his numbers are. Like 40-time jumps, it on tape, it looks easy.
Yeah.
And that to me is like more important. I don't think Boise State is such a low level of competition that you have to be like, wow, is this only happening because he's up against FCS athletes? Like, he's clearly good enough of an athlete to make this work.
I want to talk about some of these other players. I mentioned Hampton, speed and big playability that he has. I think he's a better zone runner than a gap runner. I was surprised at how much I really liked TreVeyon Henderson. I'll keep repeating that as well. You know, after just watching him as a college football player, it was like, all right, big playability, big playability. I was impressed with just how much he maximized yardage as a runner as well and had that big playability. So I thought TreVeyon Henderson impressed me again more than I expected. Similar with Caleb Johnson, he ran in the 4.5s while everyone else is blowing up the combine and seemingly running fast this year, whether it was running backs, wide receivers, DBs, everyone was running fast. Caleb Johnson of Iowa did not run that fast, but he's an impressive player. I know there's going to be a lot of people that say, forget the 40 on him as well. Really good player. He reminded me a little bit of Joe Mixon, the way he runs and is just this smooth zone runner. I think certain teams are going to absolutely love Caleb Johnson and maybe put him above, certainly above TreVeyon right now, as just like a pure zone runner for their system, which I get. And I see the chat talking Scattaboo, Cam Scattaboo. He is now at 7 on the consensus board for running backs, number 84 overall. That's another one of my guys. Like, I want that dude on my team. What I don't understand, I know he runs over dudes and, you know, breaks tackles and he's got great strength, but he's not a great cutter. He's not explosive necessarily. But I don't understand there's a Ron Dane comp in the chat here.
Comp?
Yeah, somebody said he's Ron Dane and he's Mike Alstott comps, and I'm like, no, he's like he's not a fullback, right? He breaks tackles like an old school fullback, but he's not a fullback. And Scattaboo, I think he's going to be a steal if he goes in say the 3rd round.
Scattaboo to Ron Dane is one of the worst player comps I've ever heard in my life. Like,
no offense to Eddie. No offense to Eddie in the chat here. No offense. I'm just saying.
That's egregious. I mean, that's that's awful. And this is in a world where you're like, look, player comps can be used for a variety of different things, right? Are we talking stylistically? Are we talking quality of career? Like, what are we talking? But in almost every conceivable way, Scattaboo to Ron Dane is not good.
He's listed at 5'11", 215. What was his? What did he weigh in at?
219, is that right?
Yeah, 5'10", 219. And he continues to get comps to these big bruising fullbacks. The testing's interesting on Scattaboo. I mean, if he felt like a 4.6 guy on film.
Jumps were crazy good though.
But 96th percentile vert, 82nd percentile broad jump, showing some of that explosiveness. I mean, he's just that guy. Kareem Hunt was great contact balance and tough to tackle coming out. I just think he's going to be good, man. I just think he's going to be a productive NFL player, and I think that's the depth of this class. There's some DJ Giddens fans who's at 8 on the consensus board. Devin Neal from Kansas, Giddens from Kansas State, Neal from Kansas. There's some depth in this class. Bashal Tutin, who's 11 on the consensus board, ran a 4.32 at the combine here. So there's some depth in this class.
And had a 40+ inch vertical. Like, it was the highest vertical. So there were a few guys that really showed up as impressive athletes, like Omarion Hampton and Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State. Those guys both put like high-end running back numbers, the kind of workouts that Breece Hall did when he solidified himself as one of the top running backs in that class. And honestly, they feel into that kind of category, those sort of prototype size, speed, explosiveness type backs. Hampton, I think, better than Judkins at this point, but similarly athletic profiles show that they can be that guy. I think you're right. Scattaboo at this point, I honestly, he shouldn't run like at all. Don't even bother unless you're like confident that you can run something good. I wouldn't even put it on. I wouldn't even put a number out there. Like if it's not going to be a 4.5 or better, I wouldn't even run it, because at this point you've shown you're explosive and you're built like an absolute monster and your tape is amazing. Just let that speak for itself. Don't even allow people to pick apart your 40 time for all the relevance it's going to have. But again, like, this is, I think, going to be a really good, deep running back class.
Almost I think 20 teams are going to come away with at least one running back that's going to be like in their top 2 on their depth chart. I mean, maybe that's extreme, but there's a lot of running backs available and running back needy teams. even a team like the Vikings, who only have a handful of picks, it's going to be tough for them to not come away with a running back in this class because of the depth. Guys like RJ Harvey, a little bit lower at UCF. I saw the chat mention Damian Martinez from Miami. I think those are the types of guys who go higher in other years. The other weird fit that I'm just going to throw out there, I mentioned Seattle as a team. I would love to see them have a pass catching running back to kind of take, especially in the red zone, to take a little pressure off Geno Smith. As I was watching film of Jaden Blue from Texas the other day, I was thinking that would be a great fit. He ran in the 4.3s. They already have Ken Walker. They have Zach Charbonnet, pass catching back Jaden Blue. So you have those guys that are not gimmick players, but specific role type of players in this class as well. Blue can do that. Rashard Smith is a wide receiver conversion who played running back last year at SMU, who could fit that bill. So again, there's every down backs. Stylistically, there's all sorts of different types of backs and a couple of those explosive receiving backs as well.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.